Madness. I said, young man, I got me up. I want to let be live where I swear not easy. I've been rapping my own man and get it in my get with doing. I'm breaking the profit. On my way, people calling me niggas. All the trouble I see, I ain't do better peace. When no suffering, no sources, I can't pay the poor. Only how I get paid. Sooner or later, my hustle pay. Never the pay, and I'm rushing myself. Keep it cool, everything I'm a sissy. Too much rushing, I'm probably chasing. One day. One day. I'm getting cool. One day.
I'm also gonna pay one day. Enemies are gonna see my face. Me I know I'm not watching it. One day, success gonna come my way. I know my hustle gonna pay one day. Enemies are gonna see my face. Me I know I'm not watching it. One day, success gonna come my way. Yeah. My mama was so ashamed. My papa was so angry. My friend was your money. Any method will come on that list. So I'm on my I'm on my way to this person. I'm looking for money. Looking for money. I want make mama happy. Want make Baba happy. Want make all my brothers and sisters to come around me.
Yeah, come to the group. Why you know you hustle? Why saying the book by the Genesis? Shall come at the fire, shall come at the power. I feel be working on Wednesday. In my love for the my, in my love for the my. All in the dark, all in the week, all in the sun.
My mama was so ashamed. My papa was so angry. My friend was your money. Any method will come on that list. So I'm on my
Amando, you are supposed to start now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lieutenant Commander J.R. Glapohkpa Chesson talk show. Today is Tuesday. No, not Tuesday. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Rise to upper 50 degrees in Providence, Rhode Island, and cloudy. Be not dismayed. We go up to the upper 60s, and it's going to be sunny. Take heed. Govern yourselves. Don't forget your seatbelts. Also, don't forget about the tridemic. Wear your mask. That's all we ask. Stay safe. Okay? Now, at the end of this week, we're going back 1 hour. So don't forget that. For you guys who got to work, for you guys who got to do things, you may have a rest. You may have to get up sooner. Remember that. Also, in North Alberta this morning, they have a security issue. One of the teachers found a note somewhere with threats of shooting. So this morning, the security is there, the police there. They're trying to check out the school to make sure it's safe for the students to return. The debate is tonight, the governor's debate. There's another debate, but I didn't pay too much attention to the second one. I know the governor's debate is going to be tonight. So if you want to see it, you want to hear it, you know what to do. The bus strike has been avoided. The teachers have signed, the bus drivers have signed some kind of contract, and for the time being, it should be alleviating the issues with bus and taking students to school and all of that. Okay, so this is that's what I have on the American side. On the Liberian side, the mine workers, the gold mine workers, the women down there are protesting. A lot of ritualistic killing going on down there. Well, what is that? That's the gold mining town of Henry in Bapolo. They're doing a lot of ritualistic killing there. The women, the children are protesting. Okay? Now, I don't know we're going to have this election again because the NIMA and Bong sensor facilitators are also striking. You know that. After my guest leaves, we'll talk about that. We heard about, I put up the notice about Eugene Fagon and Fia Bondo and how she took the security money, 300,000 K, and we don't know what it's for. But we'll talk about that too. So let us be for now. That my news. Let me bring my guest on. Let me introduce him before I take my break. My guest this morning is a young, talented, educated African-American who is progressive. And he will introduce himself to you, but I just want you to know that he's sharp. So let me introduce Mr. Eldridge Gilbert from the state of New York and the city of New York. How are you doing, Eldridge?
I'm doing well, Mr. Chesson. How are you?
Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
Eldridge, before we even start, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Eldridge Gilbert. I'm living in Brooklyn, New York, as you said. I'm currently the Chief Schools Officer of Coney Island Prep in Brooklyn, New York, which just means that I manage school principals. I've been here for about 5 years. But before that, I was managing principals in California, in Oakland, California, and San Francisco. Before that, I was a school principal in Texas. So I've been in education for about 18 years as a teacher, as a school principal, and now managing school principals. And I'm originally from California, but I've lived overseas, and I went to Brown University, which is how I met you, and my mentor and frat brother. And so I've known you for a long time through your wife, who I, again, met at Brown. And I've been around a little bit, got an MBA from Rice University. And so very excited to be here today. And I have also feel very honored because I've also had the opportunity to live on the continent in Malawi when I was younger. And so I have some experiences as a young person living in Malawi that I think are going to have helped to inform my perspective on today's topic. So thank you for having me.
Well, you're a young man with a wealth of experience.
I think so.
Especially in the educational administrative field. And you bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. You also a teacher, man. Right? You didn't mention that. You're a teacher.
I used to be, yeah. I mean, I do some teaching and stuff now too, every now and again, and some coaching. So I do a little bit of both.
When you're a minister, you get down there and teach and enlighten people and broaden minds. So I have this. Let me take a break. Then we'll come back. I have this tape that I made on African and African American relationships, and we hear it again. And you and I will briefly discuss it. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Attorney Commander Glapohkpa Chesson talk show. Today, I'm at Gilbert's African restaurant on the other side of Providence. And she is right here. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Gilbert McCann.
Now, Gilbert has been here for a while, and this is one of our Liberian restaurants. So, Gilbert, tell us how long you've been in this spot and why you decided to get into business.
I've been in this spot for 14 years now. I decided to open this restaurant because of helping people, going out and feeding the homeless, and we need a place where the food be cooked. And I opened this restaurant. Since then, I'm still at the same place, 850 Admiral Street.
So how has the community responded to your effort?
Well, the community has responded greatly to my efforts. I do successfully feed the homeless, and people have embraced the business, and it led me to move forward to Liberia to open the orphanage for children in Liberia.
Wow, you have an
All
orphanage?
from this restaurant.
You're kidding me.
And because of the customer has been very nice to me and loyal to me, I was able to go to Liberia 3 weeks ago and open an orphanage in my late mother's name, Eugenia Bright.
Where's the orphanage?
In New Jersey, Liberia.
Wow. So what message do you have for your customers?
Well, my customers are very loyal to me, and they are very faithful. They always help me when we're doing the backpack giveaway for children every year, which will soon be coming down end of the month. And then we give the food away, the turkey and chicken in November. And because of the customer, all the tips they leave, and all the encouragement help me to promote this business and do what I'm doing moving forward. So I love my customers, I love my neighbors, and I love everybody in general.
We thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you, and God bless you too.
Thank you too. Let the people see the delicious food you're fixing
Okay,
here.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's good to be back. And Eldridge, I hope you're back with me.
I'm here.
Okay, the topic for today is about African American and Americo-Liberian Africans relationships. So I want us to listen to this video. Every time I get guests to talk about this, I play this video because there's sort of a myth that Africans and African Americans can't get along. There's a big rift between us. So let's hear the video where I have to say it, and we start our conversation. Good morning, my African American and Americo-Liberian people. Welcome to Attorney Commander Glapohkpa Chesson talk show. We as a people have dealt in ignorance, backwardness, and failure to know who we are and what we are to each other for too long. Liberia was a nation that was founded by African Americans who believed in their own abilities, their own strengths, and their own direction. They left these shores and went to Africa. Amid the different issues and problems that we had among ourselves in this nation, we left and went to Liberia to set up a new nation for ourselves and our posterity. But in doing so, it caused much stress to our race and our people of the United States of America. We fought each other intellectually, physically, and spiritually against colonization and separation of our people from these shores of the United States of America. Despite what eventually occurred for us to leave this nation, it happened. And for nearly 200 years, we stayed in Africa fighting to build a nation that we can call our own. And today, despite our shortcomings and our shortfalls, many of us have returned to the United States of America for a hopeful life and new beginnings. And while we are here, it is very important that African Americans and Americo-Liberians set aside our differences, our idiosyncrasies, and come together to forge a better understanding of each other, a better need to assist each other here and in Africa, and a better direction for all of our posterity. My class this morning will start the spreading of this message to African Americans and Americo-Liberians in this nation so that we can come together and understand the greater purpose of our need for unity, progress, and advancement amongst ourselves here in America and on the African continent in the Republic of Liberia. Welcome to my show. Please pay attention, and I hope that you will make comments that will create a better understanding as I explain the issues of our group, our nations in Liberia and in America, and what we hope to achieve through this meeting. I thank you for listening, and I hope that when you leave here today, you leave with a better understanding of why we need to create a better sense of unity, solidarity, and understanding between African Americans and Americo-Liberians. I thank you. We'll take a break. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Attorney Commander Glapohkpa Chesson. I'm here on Broad Street at 934 Broad Street at Sonia's Jewelry. I'm here with the proprietor. Sir, can you tell us your name and how long this business has been here?
Hi, my name is Pedro Feliz. We've been in business for more than 25 years.
And what kind of support do you get from the community?
Oh, we get a very strong support for the community. It's proved that we've been here for already 25 years. That means that we're getting very good support for the community, and we're very proud of the support that they provide to us.
Do you have any message for my people?
Yes, one of the messages that I want to give to my customers is that if you ever need service related to jewelry, or if you ever need to buy a present for your relative, just think about us. Because when you think about us, not only you helping us, you also we're gonna be sure that you're getting the best piece of jewelry at the best price in the community. And also we have other kind of services. We have selection of watches, and we do custom pieces like name jewelry and name rings. A lot of stuff related to jewelry. We also do jewelry repair. If you ever need service or wanting pieces, we you're more than welcome. So we can do it for you.
Thank you very much, Pedro.
You're very welcome, Mr. Chesson.
Have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Well, we're back. So, El, you heard the video. What's your opinion about it?
I think yeah, I have two kind of opinions. One is that I don't think that there is I don't think the relationship between Africans and African Americans is perfect. But I do think that we have similar goals for the larger community, just as you talked about African Americans leaving the United States and founding Liberia with the goals of making the community stronger, having like a better life and better opportunities, and trying to repair try to have an existence that was more peaceful and prosperous and safe than the United States. So we have similar goals, but I do think that when we come back together on these shores, there's some misunderstandings across communities about what we want to do and how we want to get there. And we do need to come together, as you said at the end of the video. But I do think that I think that there are some conflicts that happen, but I don't think it's a grave rift. But I do think that there are some fractions between the two.
You know, earlier I had another Brown University student. I told you about Annie Hillary. She was on my show.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of came off from the same end you coming from. But she came off more from the academic perspective, where African Americans and Africans exchange students.
Mm-hmm.
There are professors coming to school here in America, and she sees it from that angle. You know,
mm-hmm.
That's true too, and that's where you're coming from on one end. But you're mixing both. You're admitting there is some problem.
Mm-hmm.
She said she didn't see a problem really, but because on that level we're exchanging students, we're exchanging ideas. You have professors, presidents, and sending students, the people to colleges in America, and all of that. And there's this great exchange as well. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't see this rift. But you're saying that it does exist.
Yeah, I do think, unfortunately, especially I think with younger people that I work with, right? So I see kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And in the communities that I work with, I do see some places where there are some misunderstandings based upon culture and literally not understanding why certain groups of people do things certain different types of ways. And I think that there are some judgments sometimes across both groups, if you will, around how people should live and the decisions that they should make. And I think, unfortunately, that's not necessarily fed within the Black community, within our joint community. That's information and ideas coming from other people, from white communities, from white supremacy that says Africans are bad and say the same things about African Americans. And I think sometimes we believe those stereotypes. We believe those negative things about the other person. And sometimes want to believe them because they can make us feel better about ourselves. So when I see students, sometimes kids and adults kind of understand and see each other for who they are and don't have those judgments. But a lot of times they've gotten messages from other places and believe them. And it takes a while to educate and to undo that and to see that we are a joint Black community and that we want the same things for one another. But I think sometimes, that rift is there. And it's hard, I think, for people to, overcome, because you can be so deeply entrenched in your experience that you understand your rationale, and it can be hard to understand the experiences and the decisions of other people. And I can't say that there's no rift for me.
And you see, let me give you some experiences of mine, and Because when we come from Africa, we have a different sense about community, about education. We take education seriously, you know. And for us, when we interact with people and we find out that your sense of knowledge is so vastly different or backwards than ours, you're thinking of us, we just say, no, we don't want to deal with this person no more. And we just cut that riff off. And some people take it to be offensive. Or the African people, they don't care, they look down at people and things like that. But many of us come here looking for education. You know, and we see people in this environment with the education, with the knowledge, with the freedom to go to school, and some of them not taking advantage of it, but yet they're using the stereotypes of others to bring us down, whether we're educated or not. And you see, that creates a hurtful feeling among us, Africans. And let me tell you some experiences I had. When I first came, I don't know if I told you this, Al. I was in the Army. I was in San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston at a medical institution there. And I was walking one afternoon, just taking a stroll, and I saw these two white brothers coming down the street. And they stopped me and they said, Chess, I want to talk to you, man. I want to ask you a question. Something been bothering us. I want to ask you a question, man. So I said, yeah, guys, ask me questions. I said, don't be offensive, man. No, don't be offended. I said, no, man. I said, man, is it true Tarzan in Africa? You see, when you ask me that kind of question in a modern day and age, and ask me if you got a white man half naked in Africa running, jumping from tree to trees, yelling with the animals, yo. And we black people are not doing that. But they, in their minds, like, hey, sometimes people don't know how to respond to that. They get mad and all of that. But, I said, let me joke with them a little bit. So I said, yes, guys, I saw that dude. They said, you saw him? I said, yeah, I saw him. I said, me and my boys were coming from work one day and saw this half-naked white man just jumping from tree to tree in our streets. In the tree, in the street, in the middle of the street. He just swinging from tree to tree. So we just pulled him down, flogged him, and told him to go home and put on clothes. So, this was serious. Those guys stood up, they look at me, they look at each other. Then for a while, they nah. Yeah. And I just buzz and laugh. I said, now, guys, that's not Africa, man. Come on. I educated them. I told them, I said, you talk to somebody, they think you're so backwards. Where you got from, Kentucky? Or somewhere over there where, people have farms and stuff like that, you're not reading stuff. So they laughed too, and we left. Then I came to Pittsburgh and went in the home of this family, this black family. And this grandmother was so mad at me. She was mad. Man, Tarzan people. Tarzan ruling you. She was pissed off because with her granddaughter. She took me there to see her place. Oh, the woman went off, man. I had to leave that relationship. I couldn't understand how this woman could think that Tarzan rather rule Africa. And she wasn't the only one. There were many people that asked me this thing about Tarzan. And in this day and age, what people read, and you have access to TV, internet, and you still think Tarzan in Africa. That gets some of us. We think it's a joke. We think you want to humiliate us. Because if we're coming from Africa for education, and you all exposed to all the TV, why would you think Tarzan is in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I'm resting.
I mean, I think it's two things though, right? There's the reality is that at that point in time, and even now, a lot of what you get exposed to on TV about Africa still isn't completely positive. It still doesn't show the full breadth of African nations and the fact that African nations and cities look a lot like United States cities, right? There's not this huge divide in terms of like ways of life, right? But that's not necessarily shown. And that's not the first piece of information that most people get about Africa, even in schools now, right? They're rewriting textbooks to rewrite the way that we think about slavery. So if we're rewriting American history, we're definitely not teaching kids the true existence of Black people living in Africa in a variety of countries, right? From Egypt, which is, from what kids are going to be taught and seen on television, right? Basically like white people. So now Egyptians are still white, even in 2022, down, across the Sahara to South Africa, where we still don't see the full breadth and the beauty and the intelligence and the excellence of African nations. And so even though there's more exposure to positive and realistic visions of Africa, that's still not something that everyday person is going to see. And I think so I understand the hurtful nature of like those judgments, and it's not excusable. It is ignorance, but I don't think that it's willful. I don't know that it's willful ignorance all the time. I think there's still a lot that people don't know. But I think on the other side, it's hard to be African American and to feel judged for what people are or not taking advantage of, whether it's education or otherwise, because generational poverty and racism that you are been steeped in and like raised in is difficult to break out of. My parents went to college and my grandmothers went to college, but I'm one of few friends of mine when I went to college, I wasn't a first generation college student, and I'm African American. My people are from Louisiana and slaves in the South, and it's still a very hard process to achieve in the United States, and that's partly by design, right? Like when the United States isn't trying to have Black people. The systems and things are not set up for Black people to achieve. And in some situations, in my experience, kind of pit immigrant Africans against African Americans. And so it's not, I think there are judgments on both sides. There's some ignorance about Africa, but then I think there's some downplaying of what racism in the United States looks like for African Americans generationally, and breaking out of generational poverty, whether you're in the South or the Northeast or on the West Coast, is not easy, even if you have really good intentions. And I think the pathway for a certain type of education and upward mobility is made differently, not easy, but differently made available to African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants in some situations, right? Not all the time. But it's hard on both sides, and we end up judging each other. And again, that's why I say there's a rift. I don't think that it's necessary. We should be able to see each other and to overcome those judgments and that ignorance. But it's not easy in either camp. And I think sometimes we miss the fact that it's not easy for one group or the other. And when it looks like it's easy, that's probably white people making it, purposely putting us against each other so that we don't come together in a way that makes faster progress. But if we view each other as like each other's enemy, then it's easier to keep both groups down.
But you see, it's a grave challenge though, because even within our groups, there's grave divide. You look at the Africans, man, all the tribes with different philosophies, different religions, and different ideas. They even you look at the Black from the North, the Black from the South, they have different philosophies about each other. They're competing against each other too. They have idiosyncrasies and ideas that are different from each other. I mean, I've been through it all, and we got to start these kind of discussions because it's just too much for one group of people to handle, man. It's just too much for us. How do we free ourselves from these kind of constraints? These are mental constraints. They're not physical, basically. Mental.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, two things come to mind for me. One is the idea that we're a community if we don't have any conflict, and I think that's not fair, right? Like you said, there's conflict when people come together, no matter what it is. So even if I think we have to stop judging each other and saying that we don't that the rift is because there's something wrong with us. That's not true. And from my perspective, like that's not true. We have to look at not just I think we have to look at white supremacy and like white supremacy culture and how that creates and exacerbates some just regular human stuff. Like we're not always going to agree on things, and that's okay. We can still be in community together. But once we start attributing those disagreements to something bigger, then I think we start to have a problem. And then I do think it's about education and sharing the experiences like you're talking about, because I think so often people don't know why it's challenging, why individuals have like their separate challenges navigating the United States, right? And from my seat, it looks like you got it easy because you don't have to deal with X, Y, and Z, or, and I think we don't talk enough across those lines of difference within the Black community. And so the judgments persist. And I think it's about knowing sometimes when we need to shut off the voices that we heard, even from ancestors. Like I have family members who thought incorrect and ignorant things about Africa. And I can't believe all of those things just because it was somebody who was older than me who thought it. They could be wrong. And I need to be open to believing that. And on the other, and the same thing on the other side, African Americans aren't lazy or don't value education just because you don't see the achievement. There's a greater story there. And you got to be open to hearing that and open to believing that that's true. But it's human nature to kind of block that off, right? It's human nature to want to belong to something. And sometimes that means you create an other. And so we got to really fight against that, I think, through education, understanding each other's experience, but then really having a desire to want to see the world differently than the way you might understand it at the current moment. And that's one of the things I got from Brown, from your wife, was just the opportunity and the push to see the world differently and bigger than how I understood it. So we need more of those opportunities across the board, regardless of age, I think.
Yeah, and that's very true, because changing our people comes within the academic field too. When you have a lot of people educated and blind and just having opinions that are way out there, because most of the people I meet that talk bad about Africa are educated people. I want to join an organization, man, and people say, oh, you're African, you can't join an organization. Africans don't like African Americans. I'm like, where did that come from? I said, so all us in one big pot, one monolithic pot. All African thinks that African act like that. So when one African don't like you, all African don't like you. I said, we don't believe in those kind of things. I said, I'm surprised at you, man. But anyway, that's some of the beliefs. Even when our writers here write, African American, some writer write, they don't give the holistic view of the African context. They limit it to African American context. Because when Africans write, they don't know too much about America to add in that context, But there's always this missing part, because everybody in America got somebody outside. The Italians, the Jews, they always talk about the old country. And only a few of our people talking about the old country, man. Our people won't forget about the old country.
We don't know it though, right? Like I think that's part of the generational, the problem with not talking about slavery and its impact enough is that we don't know. What old country? If I've never been to the continent, I don't even have an idea of what came before the United States for my people, like for my family. And so I think sometimes we, because slavery is uncomfortable, we don't talk about how it has continued to damage, and we can't. So either we got to have a strategy to get back to understand the old country, despite the stereotypes that try to get told to us about, Africa, or we settle for those old country narratives don't mean anything when they come from European immigrants either, because unless you're recent, you have never been, if you're a 5th generation Italian American, you don't know anything about the old country. So I think we do ourselves an injustice by not acknowledging consistently why we don't have some of those roots and knowledge and acknowledging the way that slavery continues to impact us and the way that stereotypes about Africa continue to impact us is one of the ways I think that we can begin to overcome that. But we can't, I think there's so much shame, there's so much shame that we have that has been passed on to us, again, from white supremacy, that says like you should be ashamed of being slaves and it didn't happen. You should be ashamed of being Africans because, that's not coming from us, but we believe it. And I don't think
Well, Edward, I must admit too, Africans are complex people, man.
as just like and right, and we talk about ourselves
with so many religions, with so many languages, with so many cultures. We're not one culture. We're different culture. We think we're one culture because in the white man's mind, he think we all got one culture, but we're not one culture, man. We're not one God. Look at Nigeria alone. Got almost 800 people, 800 tribes and all of that. You can't even count the tribes those people got. Because you got tribes branching off in the clans, branching off in the villages, so you got all these variations. That's how you say it, right? And it's killing us. Just the idea of that kind of diversity alone. How do you bring all these people together? And everybody want to lead. Everybody want to have their own sense of dominance or influence and control. And that's the thing that's killing us too, man. Because when people try to take one step forward, you got another group that wants to show that they can do the same thing too. Well, we're free. Let's take the other step forward. And there's no meeting of the minds. I know you got a shut down and you're watching it, but I'm watching it too. You said 6:50, but it's 6:40. It ain't even 6:45 yet. So give you a conclusion on what do you think about this whole, how do you view this whole thing in a nutshell? And what do you think we can do?
Well, I guess the first thing is that I think we have to acknowledge that it exists in a positive way. It's not, it's true. We have some divides and we have to talk about it in order to bridge the divides. And we have to listen to one another, learn and listen from one another. I think, and I think we have to understand the power dynamics, right? We're not trying to tear each other down, but we get the idea that there's not enough, that there's a scarcity. We've been taught this like scarcity mindset that if I have something, that means you have less, instead of the fact that we could both have what we need. And that is, those are some very American capitalistic like ways of thinking. And if we don't understand that, then we can't, I think, begin to challenge and say like, that's not the way that it has to be. We're not fighting for resources with one another. And when we are, we need to think differently about that. But we have to talk and listen and understand all of the dynamics that are coming into play, that are trying to rip us apart, because I think that's real. And I think if we don't acknowledge that there are outside forces that want to rip our communities apart, that want to keep us from coming together, then we will just continue to believe, the stereotypes and myths about one another that keep us separated, versus if we say these things are intentional. So like, let's talk about how we can intentionally close those gaps, close those ways of misunderstanding one another, then we can make progress. So that's my understanding.
That sounds so good, man. That sounds so good and real. Well, viewers, that's from a Brown University student.
Long time ago.
Yeah, we went a long time ago. You still got the education you had. I mean, it's where it came from. It's where it all came from. Now you got the addict experience. That makes it super. Thank you very much, Eldridge, because we got to have more conversations like these. We got to have more interaction like these, where we have Africans and African Americans sitting at the table, talking frankly about things that we don't like and things that we like. Letting our people know that they can consider these things we're talking about and see if it's within their communities and how to handle it and best get all the stereotypes out of our community so we can better understand each other. Because when Annie and I talk, one of the main things we agree on, there are many Africans in this country that can help African American communities.
Mm-hmm.
Got plenty of doctors, plenty of carpenters, got plenty of handyman. We got everything in this country. But that gap has to be bridged. So when we know that there's a need somewhere, we can cover it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's money, we can find a means to make it happen. You know, Karen, I have a school in Ghana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you supported it too.
Yeah.
That's how we started the school. People, we wrote people that people can say, oh man, you guys school give us 100, 200, 300. When you look, the school, we graduated 37 students in December.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Yes,
great.
and the school has transformed that whole camp, man. Now the people know they got a school, the children selling the bread, whatever, cake, biscuits, they're selling in the community. So the people getting a sense of valued people in the community. They didn't have that before. You know, everything was just laissez-faire. Now they got people who train, and all the students from the school got their own baking classes going on. They're baking and selling too from their homes. And that's what's so amazing. I mean, it's blown up. They honor us in the camp the other day, the whole camp, 2,000 people or more. So these are the good things you have to do too, man. And
Thank you.
You contributed to that.
I
So I want to thank you very much. I know you got to go. So
thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation and the conversation.
Feel free to come back, man. We need people that you to talk with all the time. Okay, Eldridge?
I'll be here when you need me again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Mr. Eldridge Gilbert for being my guest this morning and giving us this wonderful idea of relationships. Thank you, El.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
We are at Garden of Eve, Caribbean cuisine. So we have a beautiful outdoor that we have a selection of different type of food that you can enjoy. We have jerk chicken, jerk ribs, especially the weekend. We got some different specials gonna go on, and we are basic Haitian cooking, but also you can find a little bit of everything that we carry here. And we are at 405 Harris Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island. Thank you, come on by and try us out. Looking forward to see you guys.
So, let's talk about my Liberian news, as I promised. Now, these women in the gold mining company area are complaining of ritualistic killings. What's happening with our people, man? And they're protesting again. So that's one protest. We got the NEMA and bunk facilitators of ledges protesting too. And they block all the roads in Banga area here. That's the news today. The people said that we're not having any census until they get paid. So you see all the hurdles we got to this census, all the hurdles we got to the next election. This is not right. Then on top of it, the massive corruption in our country. Finabondo. It's all over. Eugene Fagon were on her. But before that, I was talking with somebody who was telling me she got 30 taxes running all over the city. She owns so many building complexes all over the city. All over the city. How can these people just come to power and get so rich overnight? This is not right. This is not right. And this is our wealth. These people are taking for themselves. Now we hear Finna Bono went to the UBA bank and withdrew $300,000 from the funds of the EPS police officers. And they say every month they collect $20 from these people to put in that fund. That's a development fund. So if they have any problems, family die, relative issue, and they need money, the people can loan them money from that funds. Finna Bono went there yesterday and withdrew $300K. So now the people want to know why. Some of the officers not happy. But what can they say? Can they say anything? That's our country, man. It's not right. It's not right. This woman alone got 20 houses all over the place. 20 houses. How she got 20 houses? How she able to buy 30 taxes? I mean, I guess with the $10,000 and $15,000 getting every month, they can afford to buy one cab a month. But 20 houses, all these things, we got to question these people, man. We got to want to know where these people getting this money from. How these people getting all this wealth. We talk about how the other day, the same Finna Bono went to the gas company, the Liberian Petroleum Company, to get George Weah Saturday corrupt stealing money of $250,000 or more, $200,000 or $250,000. How you handle that kind of raw cash? They gave Finna Bono the raw cash of $250,000. She took it to her house, which is right next door to LRP, to the refinery, and went to sleep. And the boy in her yard took the $250 and ran away. Now they're beating him to find out why he stole the president money. What the president was stealing our money? That's the question we want to ask him. What you doing stealing our money? It hurts me, man. It hurts me when people steal from me. And there's no need to steal. Why you gotta steal? Massive stealing to break our country down. I mean, we in trouble. We in trouble. Now, before I go, let me tell you the other story. This man, his name is, he's the late Tukwa Do. I think this is Tukwa Do. They say news for the bird like that. Tukwa Do died last month. This is a true story. But the woman he married to in Liberia, Musu Famule, she never knew all the time they've been together that Tukwa Do got another wife in America. Tukwa Do came to America, got married to another girl here. What's her name? Gertrude. Gertrude Do got married to another Liberian girl, Gertrude Do. Left Gertrude Do in America, went back to Liberia, acted like he ain't got no wife, and married Musu Famule. Now my man died yesterday, the last month, and Gertrude is in Liberia to claim her widow's right. So right now, Maria is turned upside down because Gertrude and Musu fighting. The body of Tukwa Do is at the striker funeral home, they say, but they can't get the body out because both of them claiming the body. Both of them claiming the property. Both of them claiming the house. Both of them claiming everything. So here we are again with another Liberian scandal. Never ending scandal. But that's my show for today. If you find that entertaining, more power to you. But have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you for watching my show.